Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots.
Today we have been carrying out a series of activities to launch the campaign to stop killer robots. We're here in Parliament Square, where we will be meeting with a member of Parliament. First, where a robot will hand him a letter from us asking him to help with banning these weapons, and then we will go inside Parliament and do a parliamentary briefing on the issue.
Killer robots, or fully autonomous weapons, will be another form of victim-activated weapons. Those who are the victims will never see it coming, they will not know they're a victim, and they will be attacked and killed by a machine.
When I first heard about them, I have to say I was way more frightened than of nuclear weapons. Drones are already being used, you know, the way is being paved for autonomous weapons, and once they're out there, it's going to be very difficult to bring them back. So we want to stop them while we can.
There's nowhere else in our daily lives that we allow machines to make decisions of whether or not we live or die. Why we would do that in warfare is beyond me. Warfare is very chaotic. Things happen very quickly. Highly trained soldiers have a sense of understanding of the law. They have a sense of compassion. They understand conflict. They can make the judgments having no human involved. And having a machine make all these determinations is just plain wrong. It's morally, ethically, and legally wrong, and we should not allow that to happen.
We are very concerned with the lack of transparency and the lack of public debate about the weapons that we have as societies and the ways that we develop technologies of killing. We've seen over the past few years really an explosion in the use and proliferation of drones, remotely piloted aircraft, and I think that should give us pause to consider what might happen with other sorts of technologies, and in particular the drive towards fully autonomous weapons. I think is something that needs much more public debate, greater transparency, and the UK's position on this is not at all clear. We think the UK needs to have a watertight policy on fully autonomous weapons.
I support the ban on killer robots. Do you?
I think the work we're doing is critically important for many reasons, trying to stop the secrecy of the military, stop the secrecy behind weapons development, that it's being carried out in our name with our money when there's no public discussion about the weapons that are being created. And that, I think, is yet another threat to democracy.
It wasn't long ago that drones were just an idea, it seemed, on the drawing board somewhere, and now they're being used very prominently, and we're seeing all kinds of issues with the way they're used. And the difference with killer robots is the nature of the weapon itself. But there's certainly moral, ethical, and legal issues with drones, and they overlap. There's a lot of overlap here, but the difference is with fully autonomous weapons or lethal robots, they will make the decision themselves. There will be no human involved, no meaningful human control, and it should not be allowed to happen.
Drones are reprehensible enough to me, but at least there is a human being who is accountable and responsible for firing the missiles that attack the target. With killer robots, which they are planning to develop in the air, on the land, and in the sea, these weapons would have no human being involved in the targeting and attack. And to us, contemplating a world in which machines are given the ultimate decision over life and death of human beings is just morally and ethically reprehensible and should not be allowed to happen.
Robots are not for killing people.
We've made decisions to prohibit certain practices, methods and means of warfare. Poison gas, biological weapons, landmines, cluster munitions have all been banned because they're unacceptable. They cause unacceptable harm. But it's not often that we get a chance to prohibit a method or mean of warfare before it's already upon us. And we only have a very small handful of countries that are actually pursuing fully autonomous weapon technology. The UK is one of them. And so I think that we have a responsibility and an opportunity to really have a preemptive campaign that can prevent these weapons from spreading before they start to proliferate.
This is a rare moment. We actually have the ability to stop the crisis before the weapon is ever used. And that is really something that's very important. We learned that lesson from the landmines crisis. It was a crisis in dozens of countries around the world. 500,000 people have been, at least were killed or injured or alive, victims who are alive now. Why should we create that again? We can stop that now, and we should.
I am a friendly robot. Don't harm me.
We don't want to ban robots. We don't want to ban the autonomous activities of robots. We just don't want them to be armed.
Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Martin, thank you very much for coming out to meet us. We are representatives of the campaign to stop killer robots, which is being launched in London today. I have a letter that I would like to hand over to you today. We hope you'll be able to transmit it on our behalf to Prime Minister David Cameron, calling on the British government to set out a clear policy to prohibit fully autonomous weapons immediately, and hopefully to lead with other governments in prohibiting this weapon through an international treaty. So thank you very much.
I'm here supporting the campaign to ban killer robots because I think they pose an incredible threat to civilian populations across the world. I think because a lot of people now in Parliament were involved in the campaign to get rid of cluster munitions, landmines before that. So they do recognise the threat of certain technologies to civilians. And I think they will recognise it in this case. Even the government hasn't ruled out a complete ban. They've been very vague and we're uncertain of their exact position, and we need to harden up on that. But I think there will be momentum in the House of Parliament.
I support the ban on killer robots. Do you?
Yes!
Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots. Ban killer robots.